Welcome to the show. Today's show is Unveiling the Power of Medicinal Mushrooms with Dr. Max Justice. Here are some of the topics. We're going to talk about key medicinal mushroom species and their unique health benefits, the importance of sourcing high quality, sustainably harvested mushrooms, and tips for incorporating medicinal mushrooms into daily wellness routines. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the show.
Hey, this is Tiffany's Tello. Buena Secret Shiravello. She doing everything to make sure that you well off. Holistic health solutions coming straight from a box. Tiffany Decker here to help you with it all. Tiffany's Tello.
Welcome. We have Dr. Max Justice here from Setas Mushrooms. Did I say that correctly?
You sure did, Tiffany. Thanks so much for having us here. Appreciate it.
All right. So I'd like you to just dig in and introduce yourself and go over your expertise in mycology and your journey into founding Setas Mushrooms.
Great. Thanks, Tiffany. And again, thank you for having me on the show. Pleasure to be here and even more honored to be your first guest. So I actually have another show that I was the first guest for about 5 years ago, and now I'm a board member of the organization. If history proves itself correctly, we're going to have a long relationship together. Looking forward to it. So you asked a great question about my history with mushrooms and how I got into it. Boy, that has been an amazing journey in itself. So a little over 5 years ago. In fact, this will be 6 years this month, actually. Wow, that's kind of scary to think about. I almost lost the love of my life. My wife, she was my fiance at the time, had a massive hemorrhagic stroke where in the matter of a heartbeat, the left ventricle in her brain, I think it's called ventricle. Sorry, that's not correct. The left lobe in your brain, in her brain, filled up with blood in the matter of a heartbeat. And her right lobe filled up 90% with blood in that same heartbeat. And another 10%, and I would have lost the love of my life. Because those are supposed to be air sacs, and they're not supposed to be filled with blood. So, the odd part was whenever my wife had the stroke, it was several hours later until we even realized anything was really wrong. In fact, I wasn't even around. Friends and family found out about it or seen. And thankfully, because of family, or friends of the family, they noticed that something was wrong and got her to the hospital in time, where they were able to do something about her condition. Now, while she was in the hospital for over a week and didn't really know who I was, she had this voice in her head saying, "Don't trust the guy in the hoodie." Well, I was the guy in the hoodie, and I was actually just starting my PhD journey. And what's a good PhD student know to do? Research. So I started researching how I could help her, and I came across the 5-year DARPA study. Now, DARPA, that's the DoD Advanced Research Agency, and I'm a former Pennsylvania Army National Guard soldier and U.S. Marine, so I know a little bit about the DoD, and I know that DARPA DoD doesn't really do anything for 5 years unless there's something there. And it was a 5-year study to identify the performance enhancement, the performance improvements across the body from taking mushrooms. And this was a 5-year study being done by a gentleman named Paul Stamets. In fact, many of you may have heard of Paul Stamets on a Netflix special called Fantastic Fungi. In fact, a lot of what you hear him do on that show is exactly what we do on our farm, because we grow more than just gourmet, beneficial, healthy mushrooms. We also grow alternatives to concrete, plastic insulation, coffins. But we'll save that for here in a little bit longer, because you asked about my journey and getting into it. And I skipped over a whole lot of things. But while she was recovering from her stroke, in particular from the medication that the doctors were giving her, it was making her not like herself. In fact, she had suicidal thoughts and was extremely depressed and really hated life. And in fact, I was hating life much at the same time, because any little noise really bothered her. And even just setting two plates together, it was this loud noise in her head. And come to find out, she was having multiple headaches at the same time. So I get back to Paul Stamets and his work with the DoD. He had, in particular, I had found this one mushroom called lion's mane. And lion's mane is a neurotropic. It's one of the few substances known to humanity that you can ingest that helps promote the growth of brain and nerve cells. So my wife and I, we actually never ate mushrooms prior to her stroke. In fact, whenever I brought the topic of getting her mushrooms, she was like, "Are you nuts? Have you ever seen me eat mushrooms before?" And I said, "Of course, my dear, I've not seen you eat mushrooms, but these are very, very powerful mushrooms. They can help you." And so she said, reluctantly, she said, okay, she would try it. So she started taking these mushroom capsules of lion's mane. And it wasn't but 3 days, and she started to feel the difference. And within a week, the difference was night and day. And she started feeling better about herself, as well as she weaned herself off of the hard drugs that she was getting from the pharmaceutical industry and from the doctor, and just took lion's mane and acupuncture. And that's what she used to recover from her stroke. And in fact, when she took the acupuncture, it was absolutely amazing. It was like watching a thermometer rise. I could see her skin color change, and it was going up in her body from her arms and her face. The color was coming back, and it was just absolutely amazing. So when people talk to me about why I got into mushrooms, well, it's because it helped me save the woman in my life, and I'm forever thankful.
Wow, I did not know this. In our brief meeting, I had no idea, so I was actually looking forward to hearing this story, and so what a great story this is. Um, so you said this was 6 years ago that this occurred?
6 years ago this month, in fact, 6 years ago next week.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah.
when did you decide that you were going to jump in and, start this journey with Setas Mushrooms?
So, so my wife was taking this lion's mane, and she was taking it on a regular basis. Well, if you've ever purchased lion's mane, in particular in capsule format, it is not inexpensive. In fact, it's a little costly. And she was taking 3 and 4 capsules a day, which is more than the recommended dose, or what we would even recommend. We typically recommend 2 capsules per day, but she was doubling up, and really nobody ODs on mushrooms. I've never heard of any issue with the person ODing on mushrooms. And if there is one, somebody please email me, Max at Setas Mushrooms. I'd love to hear about it, although don't necessarily want to hear about it's sad to hear about the circumstance, but I'd like to know because I am not aware of anyone ever taking too much or ODing on mushrooms. And I've got a lot of scientific proof to what mushrooms do and so on. But so, anyways, getting back to your question, the cost of mushrooms was so much that my wife said, "You know what?" She was walking through Walmart one day and seeing this grow kit for oyster mushrooms. So she grabbed the grow kit and brought it home, and sure enough, within 10 days, we had mushrooms. And my wife never had a green thumb. In fact, she's never really grown anything. She always joked about how she kills everything she tried to grow. And yet mushrooms was so easy for her to grow. And then she started checking into other things that she could grow, and she started working with plants and started learning how to grow plants, and then said, okay, I'm getting good at this growing stuff. What if I actually grew mushrooms for a living? And she started making, growing mushrooms out of this, our first mushroom farm, if you will, which was made out of, the roof was a double pallet wide, and the sides were all made with pallets that we stood on the long ends. And that was the mushroom farm. And I had to bend over to get into the mushroom farm. And my wife, she's a little vertically challenged, but good news for her, she could stand up in and put her head in between the rafters of the pallet. And she could stand up without bending over at the back. Me, I had to endure the pain for a little while. But she was growing 40 pounds of mushrooms out of this little indoor vertical mushroom farm. And it was it was 4 levels tall, and it was only, we're talking 8 feet long by 4 feet wide, and she was growing 40 pounds of mushrooms. It was very impressive. So she decided that she wanted to expand, and at the time we had 2 3-car garages. And the reason why we lived along the river, it was gorgeous. It never wanted to leave, which is the kind of our growth story with the mushroom business. But we lived in this beautiful place, and then we sold all of our water toys to make room for the boat, the jet ski. I had a motocross bike and so many other things. Got rid of all the toys, and we put in a indoor vertical mushroom farm in this 3-car garage. Well, it wasn't that 6 months that went by and she outgrew the 3-car garage, and then right above the 3-car garage was another 3-car garage. So we had the 6-car garage full of mushrooms, and within a little over a year, we were producing 400 pounds of mushrooms a week. And it started with one farmer's market. We quickly grew to like 5 farmers markets, and then we grew so many farmers markets we turned them down. So then we went into restaurants, and now we're found all over the DC metro area, Baltimore and Pennsylvania. So Maryland as well. So it's been an amazing ride. It's been an amazing growth story, and I'm just so thankful that I found this opportunity. In fact, I got my MBA in 2006. And from between there and 2018, I was trying to figure out what in the world am I going to do with this MBA? Well, I found it through mushrooms. And next to being married to the love of my life, I am in the best field and industry that I could ever imagine.
All right. So to get into our 3 key questions today, the very first topic that we'd like to cover is the key medicinal mushroom species and what their unique health benefits are.
Sure. Well, first of all, there are more varieties of mushrooms than there are plants and trees combined. And I won't even go into fungus itself. And fungus is a whole kingdom that's larger than several other kingdoms combined. So it's every day is still a learning process. Now, that being said, at Setas Mushrooms, we grow about 30 different varieties of mushrooms. And I'm not going to go into all those different varieties, but there's a few key mushrooms that are tremendously important for each and every one of us, especially the older we get. And I used to live in Okinawa, Japan for a while, where that's a place in the world that has more centenarians than anywhere else. One of the reasons why is due to their diet, and mushrooms is a big part of their diet. So some of the mushrooms I recommend for your diet are shiitake, lion's mane, and maitake, which are all phenomenal mushrooms to eat, and they all have their own different taste and texture. Shiitake, some people say that tastes like a cucumber. Where I find shiitake being a very hearty mushroom, and you can just throw all kinds of different spices at it. But really, what it's good for, its medicinal properties. It's rich in polysaccharides, which is like lichen, which is the woody part of the structure of the tree. Well, that lichen, that can stimulate the immunity system and help to fight cancer. Now, granted, yes, I have a PhD. I am not a medical doctor. So please check with your nutritionist and other medical doctors and everything I'm talking about today. But you're going to find that what I'm talking to you about, I have backed up with studies. A lot of the studies are on our website at setasmushrooms.com. Many of those studies are produced, funded, and distributed by NIH. So it's just not me talking about my own view. So there's a lot of more than anecdotal evidence demonstrating the benefits of various mushrooms. Now, shiitake and it's great for your immunity system, whereas lion's mane is great for your brain. That's that nootropic that I talked about. And it has neuroprotective benefits to enhance cognitive functions as well as stimulate the production of nerve growth factors. And I even know folks, in fact, some military brothers and sisters that fellow veterans that take it to help with their PTSD, anxiety, and depression, and others even will help. They use it to help fight neurological disease, such as Parkinson's and others. And then there's maitake. Now, it's close to chicken of the woods or hen of the woods. In fact, some people use those terms synonymously for maitake. It's like the slang term. But the Latin name for maitake is Griffoia frondosia, I believe it is. And really, maitake, it's great for regulating blood sugar levels. It helps to improve cholesterol, as well as it is known for supporting the immunity or boosting the immunity system, as well as it contains beta-glucans, which enhance the immunity system, as well as it also has anti-cancer properties. Now, some other great mushrooms that I highly recommend, reishi. It's not an edible mushroom by any stretch of the means. It dries very easy. Now, you can eat reishi when it's fresh and it's porous, but it dries very quickly, and frankly, it doesn't taste all that good. I've had the pleasure of biting into reishi quite often as I'm demonstrating how hard it is. And every time I bite into it, I say, I should not do that. But it's actually pretty fun for me to show whenever I bite into it. So we may have lost some audio. Hopefully you all can hear me. Tiffany, can you give me a thumbs up? Do you still hear me? Oh, great. Perfect. Thanks. Appreciate it. So some other powerful mushrooms I was talking about was cordyceps. Now, cordyceps, there's several different types of cordyceps. You may have seen on various shows where cordyceps will grow out of the heads of ants and things like that. So that's Cordyceps senaceus. We at Setas, we grow Cordyceps militaris. And those cordyceps they look like a small Cheeto, if you will. And those are used to increase energy. In fact, our biggest customer for Cordyceps militaris is postmenopausal women. And the reason is because it helps those women that lose their energy levels post-menopause. It helps them get that energy back. Now, athletes also love it because it enhances or it improves oxygen utilization. In particular, it helps improve that oxygen utilization in your white blood cells. Now, like I said, if you're an athlete, you've probably heard about that. My wife, who is a bodybuilder, a bikini bodybuilder, she uses it as a pre-workout. So definitely several uses for cordyceps. Another mushroom that we take is turkey tail. Now, turkey tail contains potent polypsychiatric, boy, you'd think knowing these big words with a PhD, but they're still hard to get out. Polysaccharides. Now, polysaccharides it has an acronym of PSK, as well as polysaccharide peptides, which is PSPs. Now, you can find PSKs and PSPs in mushrooms, in particular turkey tail, and those are known for stimulating the immunity system, in particular the immunity system within your gut microbiome. I actually have several relatives that take turkey tail to help with Crohn's disease. So that's an amazing mushroom to work with. And then lastly, I'd like to point out chaga. Chaga is another amazing mushroom. In fact, I'm looking at it in the tree just outside my window here. Chaga is rich in antioxidants, and it's believed to have anti-inflammatory property. That's one reason why I use it. I feel much better. In fact, my feet don't swell quite as much. And it's also known for boosting the immunity system and supporting overall health, as well as having potential anti-cancer benefits. So several amazing mushrooms for you all that I encourage you all to take.
Well, thank you very much. That was quite the education. I heard a lot of key benefits. There's probably something in there for just about everyone out there. I heard a few that would definitely benefit me. And actually, after meeting you, I started with the lion's mane and the cordyceps, and I
Nice.
love them. Yes. So I'm excited about hearing more and more of the testimonies from people that have purchased those mushrooms and how it's helping them. So thank you.
Sure. Well, so now
So
I'd love to get your initial thoughts, reaction. Are you feeling any difference with the lion's mane or cordyceps, or is another family member potentially feeling any difference?
So funny thing, when you came into the spa, you met both me and my mother. And my mother messaged me first, and she had a whole list of things that she was able to get done that she hadn't done in a while. So, and she said, "Have you taken your mushrooms?" I was like, "No, not yet." So I ended up taking the mushrooms. She messaged me a little bit later, and I'm like, you know what? When I go back over my to-do list, I got about a week's worth of things off of my list. Like I was so productive, and it didn't even dawn on me that, I took the mushrooms. I was just boom, boom. All right, got that done, on to the next, just feeling good. And when she asked me about it, I was like, must be the mushrooms. I don't know. I didn't change anything else up. So yeah, I've been taking it daily and I feel very productive. So definitely doing something for me. I
Glad to
would
hear
love
it.
to,
I
I
was
would
just say
love
glad
for
to hear
you
it.
to, talk to my mother at some point in time to hear her story, because I'm sure she can really dig into everything that she was able to get done and her feelings on it. So I'll have her reach out to you in regards to that.
Love it. Love it. I'd love to have that conversation. Please do. Thank you.
All right. So our next topic is the importance of sourcing high quality, sustainably harvested mushrooms. So one thing that I absolutely love is, for one, you're local to me. So, I was able to meet you, talk to you face to face, and know that you're right down the road. So just talk about, the difference as far as, high quality and, mushrooms, the benefits of that, the importance of that.
Sure. Sure. So I would like to say that there is a big difference between indoor grown mushrooms and outdoor mushrooms, but there's just not enough scientific research yet to demonstrate that. So it's not like, I wouldn't say that one's better than the other, at least for what we know now. Now that being said, I I tend to believe that what we grow is the highest quality because we control the entire life cycle, we control the entire environment, as well as we use sustainable materials whenever we're putting our substrate together or any of our products actually. So we are very much worried about the impacts that we have to the earth, as well as the effects of the efficient sorry, the my office mates back there, I think that they want to chime in. So as well as the efficacy of the mushrooms in the health environment. So there's some key reasons why we think this is critical. So we talk about the when in the industry we talk about potency and purity, especially in our tinctures. There's a lot of growers now. In fact, we are starting to test and run our tinctures through a laboratory to demonstrate the highest quality medicinal mushrooms, as well as where we can demonstrate the active compounds and the various concentrations necessary to provide those benefits. Poor quality mushrooms, really, that's based upon improperly processed mushrooms. Like we do a hot as well as, or excuse me, we do a water-based as well as alcohol-based extraction. Some people will try to do that together in their tinctures, and really that just doesn't provide the highest purity that one can get into a tincture. Another aspect is sustainability. I briefly talked about that. Our mushrooms are harvested in a way that doesn't deplete natural populations. In fact, we use a lot of sawdust and soy hull. Now, soy is one of the biggest biggest crops that we grow in the agriculture industry. So it's very easy to find sustainable soy hulls. And same with sawdust. There's so many forests or trees, whether they're sustainably grown, and that's what we really look for. In particular, there's some pine forests or spruce forests that have a short life cycle, but we would take that sawdust that would go back into the ground, which, by the way, that's just captured carbon that we are just putting back into our products. And another aspect that we look at is the environmental aspect, and I briefly touched on that. We want to make sure that our cultivation and harvesting practices minimize our environmental footprint. That means we don't use pesticides or fertilizers. We don't use too much water. We use just the right amount of water, as well as energy. We try not to overcook or over sterilize our substrate whenever we are making sure that we are taking out all of the uh, contaminants that would hurt our mushrooms from growing. As well as we look at economic fairness. Our mushrooms are harvested sustainably, which means that we have fair trade practices that we follow. We have a GAP practice, or generally accepted accounting. Well, there's several different types of GAP. There's a GAP in agriculture, there's a GAP in accounting, and there are other GAP practices. Ours is, as far as it relates to agriculture. And we also make sure that we don't acquire that sawdust from areas that have habitat destruction or biodiversity loss. And in fact, I often reach out to our supply chain to have conversations. Hey, where does that sawdust come from? Where are you getting it? So that leads to traceability and transparency. We want to make sure that we have the highest quality mushroom suppliers. Let's see. As well as now, there are compliance and regulations that we need to follow. In particular, we have the Pennsylvania general accepted practices, as well as Pennsylvania inspects us for our food health and safety practices, to make sure that our mushrooms are safe to consume, whether in an edible format, into a tincture or powder, or any other type product.
Impressive. I love it. Especially, nowadays when you're not quite sure how your food is being treated, or your, supplements and things like that. So hearing from you how you take great care and, have thought out all of the processes. I love it. So offer some tips. How can people incorporate medicinal mushrooms into their daily wellness routine?
Wow, there is so many ways, and really, I'd say the best way is putting it into your routine, which you're going to do it daily, at least to start out. And then you get into a maintenance routine where you'll do it, say, 3 days on, 1 day off, or 5 days on, 2 days off. But I really recommend putting it into practice where you do it daily. So now that means if you're starting with supplements, that is probably one of the easiest way, or even tinctures. Supplements and tinctures is what I call a 10-second maintenance routine. Whereas powders, and if you have to put that powder into something, whether it's coffee or your smoothie or your stir fry, whatever you're putting the powder in, I call that your 2 to 5 minute maintenance plan, because you got to figure out what you're going to put it in and then put it in there. And then you have fresh mushrooms. That's why they call your 20 to 30 minute maintenance plan, because you're going to have to prepare and cook those mushrooms. By the way, I always recommend that you cook your mushrooms. I don't recommend that you ever eat mushrooms raw. And the reason why, mushrooms have what's called lichen and chitin. Now, that lichen and chitin, that's the woody structure of a tree, the outside, the bark, and even in the inside. All mushrooms have lichen and chitin, very similar to a tree. And it's heat that's what breaks it down. And unfortunately, the acid in your stomach doesn't break it down in the most beneficial way. So I always recommend that you should cook all of your mushrooms. So when you see those button mushrooms on the buffet, please do yourself a favor, do your tum-tum a favor, and just pass them on by. Other ways that you can bring them into your diet or your daily routine. We talked about powders, as well as there's dried mushrooms. Our cordyceps militaris we sell in dry or tincture format. In that dry, you simply grab 4 of those little cordyceps mushrooms, and a really large one would be the size of your pinky. In fact, I would even say this: a large one would be the size of a baby's pinky. You only need 4 of those little dried cordyceps militaris mushrooms a day, and that'll give you as much energy as 4 cups of coffee, but without the caffeine. So I don't recommend that anyone ever take cordyceps or cordyceps militaris or any other cordyceps after 2 in the afternoon. In fact, I would even say I don't recommend taking it after noon. Uh, Noon is the 12 noon, that is. A couple weeks ago, I was up at a 3-day expo in Hershey, Pennsylvania for the Fruit and Vegetable Growers Association. And on day 2, this woman who worked at Penn State came over and we were talking about the cordyceps, and she's like, wow, really, it's going to give me that much energy? And I looked at my phone and I said, it's 11:45. Let me give you 4 of them, and tomorrow you can tell me if they worked. Well, come to find out, the next morning she was at my booth bright and early, long before I was, and I heard about it because some of the other vendors next to me said, hey, you have this woman from Penn State looking for you, and she's not happy. Well, actually, she was joking about that she was going to yell at me, but she wanted to make sure that I was well aware that she was up at 12:30 at night because she couldn't sleep. Well, I was belated, and I was jumping up and down. I was like, hey, see, I told you it worked. She's like, yeah, it worked too good. She ended up buying 2 bags immediately on the spot. So I tell you that because if you're going to incorporate mushrooms into your diet, or into your lifestyle, you need to understand the mushroom. You need to understand the effects of the mushroom, because every mushroom is different. Remember, there are more varieties of mushrooms than there are plants and trees combined. They all taste different. They all do different things to your body. Your body reacts differently to each and every one of those. Now, less than 1% of the human population will ever have an adverse effect to a mushroom. So something for you to think of, but I think people are allergic to peanuts more than they are mushrooms. Just one of many examples. So please consult anyone, as well as before you take any mushroom, whether an edible mushroom, a medicinal mushroom, or psychedelic. You should always tell somebody and make sure that they're aware that you've taken some mushroom, especially if it's the first time, so that way they can see if there's any adverse reaction. So that's my advice on getting that into your daily.
So a quick question along that line, because my mother said the same thing. She had so much energy that she was unable to sleep. So what would you suggest? My suggestion was maybe take half as much as she took before. Is that good advice, or what would you offer as far as advice if there's someone who's saying they're having so much energy?
Yeah, and so 4 is my recommended allowance, and I am 175 pounds and 5'11". So for someone who is maybe 5'4" and $110 dripping wet, they probably don't need 4 of those cordyceps. So those are things to think about. In fact, you should, anything that you're putting into your body and any type of medication, they're finding out that a lot of medications that they made for us back in the 80s, well, those were based upon giving it to someone like me who is considered average size. I think it was 165 pounds, 5'10", and that's what they were basing dosage on. So those are things to think about when you're taking your own dose. Don't hesitate to take less or take more as you need. Because every single person is different. Everyone reacts differently. Some people are used to that high energy and they're switching from drinking 12 cups of coffee today to 4 cordyceps. Then for those people, they're probably going to need 8. Somebody like your mother who doesn't necessarily drink a lot of coffee and is getting all this energy should start off or go with half and then build up as needed.
Now, she did say that the day after she slept very well. So,
Well,
she
so
loved it.
perfect. You're hitting
Yeah.
on something then. If that's the case, maybe it's the same dosage, but only first thing in the morning. Instead of taking two, like one first in the morning and another one at noon, maybe it's just take it all, or take the 4 mushrooms in the morning, say before 7 or 8 a.m., and then don't take any more the rest of the day. I found that the earlier I take it, the better I sleep.
Yeah, so it's all about just tweaking it for each person, but, yeah, the energy, especially for someone who says they lack energy, that's a great feeling. So,
Great.
we're gonna do some Q&A. We're gonna jump into, question and answer after Dr. Max goes over his first annual grand feast. So if you do have any questions, please drop those into the comments, and we'll be going over those questions right after Dr. Max talks about his first annual grand feast. Tell us about the grand feast.
Outstanding. Wow, am I your first advertisement too? This is going to be incredible. So, our grand feast, we are feeding 1,000 people dinner for free on 30 March this year, which is Easter Saturday. Now, last year we had over 1,000 people set foot on my farm on 18 March, and it was a little bit of a windy day, but man, what a turnout. In fact, I've spoken to 1,000 people before, at all at one time, but that particular day when I spoke to 1,000 people up close and personal, it took me like 4 days to recover. It took my wife almost a week. We were just so drained and wiped out, and we weren't growing cordyceps militaris at the time. So this year we're going to definitely take our cordyceps. But we this year are set up. We have 4 chefs. I'm working on a fifth. We're a Top Chef Cook-Off, where that will feed those 1,000 people. We're also, it's going to be a farmers market style event. Sorry, my little puppy sees his shadow in the mirror, and of course, that's part of that. Anyways, it's a farmers market style event. We have right now we've got 34 vendors locked in, that have all agreed and said, hey, yes, we are going to be there. So there might even be 34 come 30 March. And some of those vendors include the Country Creamery, which is a Mennonite farm that produces, in my humble opinion, the best strawberry ice cream you will ever have. We also have United Bank's going to be there. We've got Chambersburg Apothecary, that they have some amazing products, as well as Awake Spa is going to be there, and so many others. So it's really going to be an amazing event. We've got the food truck vendors. We have a wood fire pizza. We have an egg roll food truck. We've got one gentleman, he's a 5-star, or shoot, yeah, he's a 5-star Michelin chef who's making oyster tempura, but that's for their grand event. Back to our food trucks. There we go. That's what I was thinking of. Redneck Foodie is another one that's going to be there for food trucks, as well as we're going to have a Latino infusion food truck and Maddie's Pierogies. So 5 amazing food trucks, 4 fabulous top chefs, 35 market vendors, and we have got plenty of parking for everyone. In fact, I've got a 4 or 5 person parking crew. We've got some set aside area for handicap parking. Now it's on a field, but the entire field has grass, and it's nice and level, so you should not have any problems walking around. This is a rain or shine event, but even if it gets muddy, it shouldn't get too muddy. And we are up on top of a hill, so we have plenty of water runoff. So please come out and join us on 30 March and get your free mushroom dinner.
All right. Well, I know I'm excited. I will be there representing as the owner of Awake Spa. I'm very excited to meet the other vendors and to get a tour of the farm. And you said the first 1,000 will be getting dinner. Is that correct?
That's correct. So, in fact, I've been working with all of our chefs. Stephen Hillenbrand is our five-star Michelin chef. Leo Herrera is a professor and instructor. I forget the name of the university and school that he teaches at. As well as Mark Buchanan has a wood fire pizza. And Mike Richards has I forget what Mike's making, but so we have four amazing chefs that are going to be cooking meals for 250 people apiece.
All right. And someone is asking for the address. Can you repeat
Oh,
the address of
absolutely.
the location?
Absolutely. Thanks, Tiffany. So a couple of ways that you can find us. So our physical address is 7189 Heggie or Heggie. In fact, if you're from this part of the woods, it's Heggie Road. If you're from anywhere else, you look at it and it says, that says Heggie. At Heggie's or Heggie Road is spelled Hege. So 7189 Heggie Road in Greencastle, Pennsylvania. And on 30 March from 2 to 7, we will have our grand feast. And we are serving dinner promptly at 5 p.m. and dinner will be served from 5 to 7. Also, I'd like to note one of our vendors is the Conachachig Institute. Now, the Conachachig Institute is about 3/4 of a mile away, just down the Heggie Road. You go to the stop sign, turn left. And you're right there, and that is also a free event. Now, the what is so special about the Conachachig Institute? That is where 5 Indian tribes came together to talk peace and to talk about how they would live harmoniously in this part of the world pre the pre-Civil War and pre-settler. So we're talking that the Conachachig Institute goes back a long time back in our history.
All right. So we're scanning the comments to see if there's any questions out there. I did have a question come through, and someone is asking, are the mushrooms okay to give to your pets?
A great question. And the answer is usually yes. There are 1 or 2 out there that are not the best for your pets. I don't happen to have that off the top of my head. I probably could go ask my favorite application, ChatGTP. But there's just so much to know about mushrooms, and frankly, my PhD it's not necessary. It's not actually in mycology. It's more in innovation, and we are innovating the heck out of mushrooms or in fungus. We are actually using fungus, which fungus that's what fruits the body of the mushroom. We are using fungus and hemp to grow alternatives to concrete, plastic, insulation, and coffins. So come on down on 30 March and you can actually step in or lay down in one of our coffins or take a picture of your favorite person in one of our biodegradable coffins.
All right. We do have another question. Are there any specific mushrooms that help with eyesight?
Actually, no. That's the one area that I am not aware that mushrooms help with. Now, there's some thought that maybe they can help, but there's no direct evidence. It's thought that shiitake may be good for helping because it provides zinc, which really helps with the eye and the metabolism of retinol. in the form of vitamin A for your vision. Maitake mushrooms are known for supporting overall health, which could indirectly benefit eye health. Reishi, well, that's known for anti-inflammation and antioxidants, could potentially help with inflammation or oxidative stress of the eye. And cordyceps, while not known for eyesight improvement, again, with having antioxidant properties, which could all be used to support eye health.
All right, fantastic. What about children? Are there any contradictions as far as giving any of the mushrooms to children?
Great question. So, I definitely don't want to give advice or say, hey, definitely take this mushroom because your kid will benefit from it. Every single person is different, and we as adults tend to jump into things much more than we would for our own kids. Now, I will go back to saying I'm not aware of an individual, no matter what age, overdosing on mushrooms. But there's always a potential for safety as well as allergies. So I would say try small pieces first. While medicinal mushrooms like reishi, cordyceps, and lion's mane are generally considered safe for adults, there's very limited research on the effects of children. So please consult with your pediatrician or healthcare provider for any medical advice on mushrooms.
All right, thank you very much. Okay, I'm scanning over. I don't see any other questions. So with that, I do want to thank you very, very much for joining me again on my very first Tiffany's Tell All podcast, Dr. Max. Very grateful. And everyone that joined in, I'm very grateful for your time and participation. We hope that you've gained valuable insights into the world of holistic alternative health solutions by including medicinal mushrooms. And remember, you can purchase these products we discussed today at Setas, did I say that? setasmushrooms.com.
Perfect.
And at Awake Spa, I also have some inventory here. You can go to mushrooms.awakespa.com. And if you're in Chambersburg, Pennsylvania area, why not visit my wellness spa? My wellness spa, Awake Spa at 427 Kiln Drive, Chambersburg, Pennsylvania. We are dedicated to offering empowering wellness journeys tailored to your needs. Your path to self-care and vitality starts here. You can look us up at awakespa.com. I am the owner and integrative health practitioner at Awake Spa. And this is my journey into this podcast. I'd like to sort of collaborate with other practitioners. And, this all just ties in together. So we're all about holistic alternative health solutions. And you can check us out at awakespa.com. Thank you again. We look forward to seeing you until next time on Tiffany's Tell All. Have a great evening.